It had been 6 years since I woke up in this world, and the reality of my situation had finally set in. I wasn't just living a new life. I was living in the pages of a young adult romance novel I'd read in my past life. My role? Julian Vance, the villainous adopted brother of the female lead, Claire Vance. According to the original plot, I was supposed to develop a twisted, forbidden obsession with my sister as we grew up. Confined by the taboos of our adoption, I would hide my feelings in the shadows until she married the male lead. Then, consumed by jealousy and paranoia, I would descend into madness, sending anonymous threats, trying to sabotage her marriage, and acting out in increasingly desperate ways to get her attention. Eventually, my antics would exhaust the hero's patience. He would leave, prompting Claire to realize her true feelings and chase after him. Watching her beg for him would drive me over the edge. I'd hire someone to run him over. Claire would discover the truth, and she would unleash a brutal revenge. My story was supposed to end with me being bound to a rock and tossed into the freezing waters of Puget Sound, food for the crabs. I looked down at the toddler clinging to my leg. Claire, currently 5 years old, had 2 streaks of snot running down her upper lip and was missing a front tooth. She grinned up at me, pure chaos in her eyes. "Julian," she lisped, "can I eat a booger?" I rubbed my temples, letting out a long, ragged sigh. We might be siblings by law, but even if we weren't, there was no way in hell. How could anyone fall for this creature? "Claire, listen to me," I muttered. "When you grow up, stay away from the ocean, okay?" 20 years flashed by. Desperate to avoid my watery grave, I threw myself into my studies. I launched a tech startup in college, and today I was a bona fide self-made millionaire. Claire, meanwhile, had followed the script. She married Caleb Thorne, the book's protagonist, a year ago. We live separate lives now. Especially after she started her own family, I kept a respectful distance, only visiting the Vance estate on holidays. So, when my adoptive mother, Eleanor Vance, called me out of the blue, I was surprised. "Mom, is everything okay?" Eleanor sighed heavily on the other end. "It's your sister. She's keeping a boy toy behind her husband's back. She's going to give me a heart attack." "What? That's impossible." I paused. I knew Claire. She could be entitled, sure, but I raised her better than that. She wasn't a cheater. Without thinking, I defended her. "Mom, you must be mistaken. Claire isn't that kind of person." "Mistaken?" Eleanor's voice went up an octave. "The whole social circle is gossiping about it. She's a grown woman. She won't listen to a word I say. But you two were always close. Maybe she'll listen to you. Can you come home? Talk some sense into her." "All right, Mom. I'll clear my schedule and head over." I hung up, wondering what the hell Claire was thinking. Suddenly, a pair of soft arms wrapped around my neck from behind, and a warm body pressed against my back. "Who was that, babe?" A voice purred in my ear. "If I find out you're thinking about another woman, I might just have to punish you." Riley Sterling tightened her grip around my throat playfully, nuzzling her face against my ear. "Ease up, Tiger. Oxygen is necessary for life." I choked out. "Cough." I managed to clear my throat. Riley loosened her grip immediately. "That was just my mom. I have to go back to the estate. Want to come?" She immediately switched gears, pouting her lip and looking up at me with wide, teary eyes. "I've been yours since I was 18. You aren't trying to dump me, are you?" I looked at her theatrics, then pointed helplessly to my right wrist. A pair of silver handcuffs currently tethered me to the bed frame. "Before you accuse me of abandonment, Miss Sterling, could you unlock me?" Riley grinned, revealing her sharp canines. Her eyes danced with mischief. "I thought since you've been so busy with work, I'd add a little spice to your life." "Spice? Or just you entertaining yourself?" I raised an eyebrow. "If I didn't hit the gym 6 days a week, you'd have broken me in half by now." When I brought Riley back to the Vance estate, Claire and her husband hadn't arrived yet. Eleanor looked like she was ready to wage war, but the moment she saw Riley, her expression brightened instantly. "Riley, what a surprise. You came with Julian?" Eleanor looked us up and down, then shot me a knowing look. "No wonder you never come home. Hiding a beauty like this all to yourself." I laughed awkwardly. Riley wasn't just anyone. In the original novel, she was the villainess, the only daughter of the Sterling dynasty, the old money rulers of Seattle. She had 1 brother, 7 male cousins, and 3 male second cousins. She was the princess of a very powerful, very masculine clan. In the book, Riley was supposed to be saved from a vicious dog by Caleb, leaving him with a scar and her with an eternal crush. She was meant to be the obsession that destroyed Claire's life. But I've been paranoid about the butterfly effect not being strong enough. I worried the Vance family would still go bankrupt, dragging me down with them. So, years ago, I made a habit of walking Claire around the rich neighborhoods, hoping to intercept the male lead's destiny and sell a favor to the Sterlings. It worked. I saw a woman walking a massive, unleashed poodle that went rogue and charged at young Riley. I didn't hesitate. I grabbed the golf club I was carrying, don't ask, and went strictly medieval on the beast. The dog owner screamed, "You psycho! That's my baby!" Adrenaline pumping, I yelled back, "Leash your dog, or I'll leash you, lady. Batter up." I fended off the woman until Caleb, Claire, and a terrified Riley watched me emerge victorious. Turns out, I had a knack for violence. Since that day, Riley stuck to me like glue. Claire, assuming Riley was trying to steal her big brother, fought with her constantly. "It's so good to see you," Eleanor beamed, holding Riley's hands. "If Julian marries you, it'll be the greatest blessing of his life." She was grinning so hard she forgot why she called me there. Riley blushed. "Oh no, Mrs. Vance. Marrying Julian would be my blessing." I rubbed my lower back and nodded solemnly. She had no idea. "Mom, I'm home." Claire walked in. She spotted Riley instantly, and her face darkened. "What are you doing here?" Riley ignored the hostility, stood up gracefully, and took my arm. "Sister, Julian and I came to see Mom. Let's reintroduce ourselves. I'm your future sister-in-law." Claire looked like she'd swallowed a lemon. She whipped her head toward me. "Julian, are you really dating her?" I nodded, bracing for impact. "Why?" Claire's eyes went red. She glared at Riley. "You have 10 brothers. Why do you have to steal mine? You're greedy." Riley rolled her eyes. "Please, those are blood relatives. Julian is recreational. It's not the same." "Art," Claire lunged. I tried to block Riley, who was already rolling up her sleeves, looking far too excited for a fistfight. "Claire, stop." I was too slow. Claire swiped her nails across Riley's cheek, leaving a small scratch. I panicked, grabbing Claire and pinning her arms to her sides. "Claire Vance, that is enough." Riley immediately grabbed her face, gasping in mock horror. "Julian, you sided with her. How could you?" I knew the drill. If you don't play along with your crazy girlfriend, she becomes actually crazy. I wasn't siding with her. You're my wife, practically. But if I held you back, she might have hurt you more. Do you think I want that? Riley paused, processing the logic. True. She switched back to victim mode, leaning into me. "Babe, my face hurts. Kiss it better." I blew gently on her cheek, then turned to a fuming Claire. "Seriously, Claire? You two are grown women. Why are you acting like toddlers?" Claire bit her lip, tears welling up. "You never liked her before, Julian. Why now?" I choked. I couldn't exactly tell her that when my startup was about to crash. Riley wrote me a check for 8 figures without blinking. Riley peeked out from behind my shoulder, smirking. "It's because I have thick skin, honey." I wore him down. "Okay, enough," I said. "You're practically family now. Stop baiting her." I shot Riley a warning look. Claire was genuinely upset, and I felt a pang of guilt. I regretted high school, when I tried to scare Riley off by taking her skydiving and drag racing, thinking a rich princess would run away. Instead, she turned into an adrenaline junkie with a possessive streak. "Brother, sister-in-law." Caleb Thorne finally spoke from the doorway. He broke the tension, and Eleanor seized the moment to usher everyone to the dining table. Dinner was predictably awkward. Halfway through, Eleanor started the interrogation. "Caleb, you and Claire have been married a year. When can I expect a grandchild?" Caleb gave a nervous, tight-lipped smile. "Whatever Claire wants." Claire gripped her chopsticks until her knuckles turned white. She didn't say a word. Eleanor, sensing the chill, pivoted to me. "Julian, when are you and Riley tying the knot?" "We're going to see her parents this trip to set a date," I said calmly. "Wonderful." Eleanor clapped. Then she had a terrible idea. "Claire, you and Caleb never had a proper ceremony. Why don't we do a double wedding?" "I'm done." Claire slammed her chopsticks down. "I'm going to my room." She stormed off without looking back. I looked at Caleb. He just stared at his plate, shrinking into his shoulders. To save the mood, I stood up. "I'll go talk to her." "Thank you, Julian," Eleanor said, relieved. I went upstairs and knocked. No answer. I pulled a thin wire from my pocket, an old trick from when Eleanor used to lock Claire in her room for bad grades, and picked the lock. Claire was sitting on the edge of her bed, back to the door. "You sat beside her. Did Caleb hurt you? If he did, say the word. I'll knock his teeth out." I meant it. In the original book, their marriage was forced by business necessity. I thought by saving the company myself, I'd freed her, but they ended up together anyway. Fate, it seemed, had a cruel sense of humor. "He didn't hurt me," Claire mumbled, turning around. Her eyes were puffy. "Then what is this about?" I asked. "And what's this about a boy toy? I raised you better than that. If you're messing around, end it. I won't have you dragging yourself through the mud." Claire scoffed, wiping her eyes. "There is no boy toy. It's Gavin, my college intern. I paid him to act interested in me. I wanted to make Caleb jealous. Why? Because Caleb isn't a man. I blinked. What? Is he physically unable? No, he's just. Claire grabbed her phone and dialed Caleb. Get up here. She hung up, then looked at me with a strange intensity. Before I could react, she yanked off her cardigan, revealing a silk camisole. She shoved me backward onto the bed and draped herself over me, letting out a loud, theatrical moan. Are you insane? I tried to push her off, but then I saw the door handle turn. Caleb stood there. He saw his wife straddling another man. His eyes went wide, his face drained of color, and ran. He just turned and sprinted down the hall. He ran. Any self-respecting husband would be throwing punches right now. I stared at the empty doorway in disbelief. Okay, I said, pushing Claire off. I get what you mean now. That was pathetic. Get off. I'm not sure. Suddenly, a banshee shrieked from the hallway. Claire Vance, you home-wrecking witch. Get off my man. Riley stormed in, eyes blazing. She grabbed Claire by the hair and yanked her off the bed. Claire screamed and kicked out, catching Riley in the shin. They went down in a tangle of limbs and cursing. Stop it, I roared. I grabbed Riley by the waist and hauled her back, but she was thrashing like a wildcat. I had to pin her to the mattress, trapping her wrists and scissoring her legs with mine. Calm down. Riley bit my shoulder hard. I hissed in pain, but didn't let go. When she finally released me, panting, I looked her in the eye. Are you done? Riley looked at the blood on my shirt, guilt flashing in her eyes. But she jutted her chin out defiantly. Explain. Now, after I explained the test, Riley grumbled, still glaring at Claire. Just because your husband has no spine doesn't mean you get to borrow mine. I sighed, turning to Claire, who was fixing her hair. So what's the plan? This isn't sustainable. I want a divorce, Claire whispered. Why did you marry him in the first place? He chased me for 10 years, she said, voice trembling. Mom was pressuring me. I thought someone who loved me that much would be safe. But he's not a partner. He's a servant. He cooks, he cleans, he sleeps on the couch because he's afraid to touch me. I feel like I'm living with a roommate who's terrified of me. If he's that scared, why did he marry me? I exchanged a look with Riley. Caleb was a coward in the book, but this was extreme. If you're miserable, end it, I said firmly. I've got you back. But Mom. I'll handle Mom, I said. Eleanor was a businesswoman first. In the original story, I was a leech, so my opinion meant nothing. Now, I was worth billions, and marrying into the Sterling family would elevate the Vance name to untouchable status. Eleanor would listen. Claire looked up, hope fragile in her eyes. Thanks, Julian. I went downstairs and found Eleanor. Mom, Claire wants a divorce. Eleanor's face hardened. Absolutely not. I brought you here to fix this, not blow it up. You stay at the hair comedy. I wasn't her charity case anymore. Mom, listen. You like the Thorne family connection. But Caleb is weak. You forced them to stay together, and one day Claire is going to snap. Maybe she actually will get a boyfriend. Do you want a scandal? An illegitimate child? That destroys the alliance with the Thornes forever. Eleanor paled. But Caleb loves her. He cooks for her. I can hire a chef, I deadpanned. He makes her soup when she's sick. I can hire 3 nurses. Eleanor sputtered. We can't just. If they stay married, it ends in disaster. A clean break now saves face, I insisted. She slumped. Fina, if that's what she wants, it's better than a scandal. I didn't mention that Claire and Riley were eavesdropping from the stairs. Next stop, the Sterling estate. Riley's house was a fortress. I was expecting the intimidating brothers' routine, but walking into a living room filled with 10 linebacker-sized men staring me down was still a lot. Riley walked in, hands on her hips. This is my fiancé. If anyone makes him uncomfortable, you're dead to me. The room went silent. The smiles on her cousins' faces froze. They all looked at the floor. You guys behave, I whispered to Riley. That was hot. Her father, the patriarch of the Sterling clan, looked at me with deep sympathy. Good luck, son. You'll need it. Dinner was tense, but brief. Riley shut down any attempts at hazing. As we left, my phone buzzed. It was Claire. Come stay at the house. Don't go to a hotel. It made sense. We went back to the Vance estate. In the guest room, I looked at Riley. Maybe you should go home? Sleeping here. Your dad might have stroke. Riley laughed. He has low blood pressure. I'm helping him. You're a terrible daughter. I shook my head. Riley walked up to me, grabbing the belt of my robe. Your sister scratched my face today. How are you going to make it up to me? Before I could answer, she spun me around and used the belt to bind my hand behind my back. Okay, really? I laughed nervously. Riley, we don't have protection. It's too risky. Riley paused. She wanted a perfect wedding, not a shotgun one. Then her eyes darted to the nightstand. There, sitting innocently under the lamp, was a box of condoms. Your mom is thorough, Riley smirked, picking up the box. I stared at the box. Eleanor Vance, you terrifyingly efficient woman. But before I could contemplate it further, Riley pushed me onto the bed. The night grew quiet, save for the sounds from our room. Down the hall, Claire stood in the shadows, listening. She gripped the hem of her shirt, eyes squeezed shut, letting go of a dream she knew she could never have. The next morning, Claire was leaving with a silver suitcase. I'm heading out of town for a project, she said, pulling on her boots. She didn't look at me. That fast? I asked, mouth full of toast. Yeah, don't worry about me. She opened the door and vanished. 3 months passed. Riley and I were deep in wedding planning. Claire, however, had loose ends to tie up. First, Gavin, the intern. After Claire fired him, he turned into a stalker, claiming he'd do anything for her. Claire called me, worried. I'll handle it, I told her. I called Ryder Sterling, Riley's oldest brother. I have a pest problem. Ryder laughed. Say no more. 2 days later, news broke that a young man had trespassed on a private construction site while drunk and fell into a wet concrete foundation. By the time they found him, it was complicated. Ryder texted me, problem solved. Treat my sister right, or concrete is cheap. I showed the text to Riley. She snatched the phone and left a voice message. Ryder, threaten my husband again, and I'll tell Dad about your Vegas trip. Ryder didn't text back. The second problem was Caleb. He refused to sign the divorce papers. He begged, pleaded, and cried. Finally, Claire slammed the medical document on the table. I'm pregnant, she lied. Or maybe not entirely a lie. She'd started IVF treatments with a donor. It's not yours. Caleb broke. He signed the papers and fled to Europe the next day. When Claire told me she was pregnant, I nearly burned the city down looking for the father. It's a donor, Julian, Claire told me, her voice steady. I'm done with marriage. I'm going to be a mom, and that's enough for me. I looked at her, seeing the steel in her spine that hadn't been there before. Okay, if you're happy, I'm happy. A year later, Riley and I got married. It was the social event of a decade. Claire attended with her baby boy. Another year passed, and Riley and I had a daughter. Looking at my chaotic, beautiful wife and my healthy child, I realized I had beaten the plot. This was a real ending. We heard about Caleb at my daughter's first birthday party. He had remarried in Europe to a wealthy heiress named Vanessa. His Instagram was full of yachts and champagne. But a year later, the Thorne family empire in Seattle collapsed. Turns out, Vanessa was a con artist. She convinced Caleb to liquidate the Thorne assets for a guaranteed investment in offshore drilling. The moment the money transferred, Vanessa vanished. She left him with massive debt and a signed guarantee that made the Thorne family liable. Caleb's father had a stroke, and the business was carved up by creditors. The last anyone heard, Caleb was spotting in a grimy casino in Tijuana, wearing a stained shirt, betting his last chips with shaking hands. Caleb's prospective the dealer raked away my last chip. I stood up, numb, and walked out into the humid Mexican night. I found a bridge over a stagnant canal. The water looked black and inviting. I've always been a coward. My parents taught me that fear was the only safe place. If I got to be on a test, I got the belt. So I learned to be quiet, to hide. I remember the first time I saw Claire. We were kids. My dad dragged me to the Sterling estate to suck up to the rich folks. He told me to go play with Riley Sterling. I saw a dog, a massive, snarling thing, cornering Riley. I wanted to help, really, but my legs wouldn't move. Then a boy with a golf club charged and screaming like a maniac. Julian Vance. He saved her. He was everything I wasn't. Claire offered me a strawberry candy that day. It was the only sweet thing in my life. I loved her, but from a distance. I knew I wasn't good enough. When she agreed to marry me, I was terrified. She was a goddess, and I was me. I tried to serve her, to be useful, because I didn't know how to be a husband. When I saw her with Julian that day in the bedroom, I didn't feel anger. I felt confirmation. Of course she loved him. He was the hero. I was just the background character. So I ran. And now, standing on this bridge, after Vanessa took everything, I realized I had run out of road. I closed my eyes and tipped forward. The water rushed up to meet me. In the darkness, I thought of that strawberry candy and wished I'd been brave enough to just eat it. If there's a next life, Claire. Vanessa, I think I'll just stay single. Story complete.